Okay, good evening. I'm going to call the public hearing to order. I have a brief statement to read as a part of the usual procedure. This council meeting is being convened in order to hold public hearings on land use matters. The public and anyone who believes their interest in property is affected may speak or present written submissions to council. Everyone will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard. No one should feel discouraged from making their views known. So if you wish to speak, or in this case, there's a couple that have registered with the city clerk, after being recognized by the chair, begin by clearly stating your name and your address. If you provided a written submission, please make this known at the beginning. All written submissions will be retained by the clerk and form part of the record of the hearing. Each speaker may address the hearing a maximum of twice. The length of your first presentation will be limited to a maximum of 10 minutes. Your comments must be relevant and not obstruct the hearing. Any additional presentation, which has to be on new information, will be limited to 3 minutes. Members of council may ask questions of you following your presentation, but the function of council members during a public hearing is to listen to the views of the public, not to debate the merits of the matters with citizens. Any debate by members of council will occur at the subsequent vote. The order of proceedings for each item will normally be as follows. Firstly, the city clerk will briefly describe the matter under consideration. Secondly, the applicant or the agent will be invited to make a brief presentation. Then the city clerk will identify any written submissions. Then oral submissions from the public will be heard and further written submissions will be received. And finally, the hearing will be closed and matters may be considered. Please note that delegations must present in a respectful manner. City Council is committed to ensuring a safe and respectful environment and supports the rights of the community to bring comments forward. Please observe these rules. If you have any concerns with the manner in which the hearing is conducted, direct your comments to the chair. So, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Worship. The first item is Richmond Zoning Amendment Bylaw 10726 for the location of Unit 2005, 10011 River Drive. The applicant is Peter Liu, and the purpose is to amend the residential mixed-use commercial ZMU 17 River Drive No. 4 Road Zone to add health service minor as a permitted use at Unit 2005, 10011 River Drive. First reading was on December 8th.
Okay, is the applicant here tonight? Did you wish to make a presentation or just await for questions?
I'm just for questions.
Okay. Any written submissions?
None, Your Worship.
Anybody wish to discuss this matter on the agenda? Anyone want to speak about it?
Move second.
All right. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So the next item, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 2, it's the official community plan amendment bylaws 10724 and 10725 for the location is citywide. The applicant is the City of Richmond, and the purpose is to amend the OCP to align the city's OCP with provincial legislation that intends to accelerate delivery of housing supply and bring forward selective updates to environmental protection policies. First reading was on December 8th.
All right, as the city is the applicant, is there anything, do we want to say anything from the city's point of view? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I just want to make a few points here. Bylaws 10724 and 10725 would amend various aspects of the city's official community plan as it relates to housing policy and environmentally sensitive areas. This includes new policy frameworks, a revised regional context statement, land use maps, and ESA map. As part of the legislative and city policy requirements, referral letters were sent to the Agricultural Land Commission, Richmond School District, and Metro Vancouver. A letter response was received by the ALC indicating no concerns. A letter response was also received by the Richmond School District indicating support, also highlighting a few areas with suggested feedback. Staff's response to these suggestions were included in a memo that was distributed to council last Friday. Staff have advised school district staff of this, and they have indicated they are satisfied their concerns will be addressed. Lastly, the regional context statement was referred to Metro Vancouver for acceptance. Last week, it was endorsed by the Regional Planning Committee with the recommendation to accept it at the next Metro Vancouver Board meeting on January 30th, 2026, and board acceptance would be a condition of final adoption should the amending bylaws be given second and third reading today. Thanks.
All right. Now, written submissions, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to reference that were referenced by the director, the memo from staff on table, which includes the Richmond School District letter, and the also on-table correspondence from the Agricultural Land Commission. In addition, we just distributed a complete version of bylaw 10724, as that we just noticed there were a few missing pages in the schedules.
All right. So with that, we have two parties who have signed up. They pre-registered to speak to us. So let's start with them. First of all is Sandra McBurney, who wishes to come and speak to us. And both of you. So it'd be Sandra McBurney and Peter DeConti. So come on down. And the procedure is to come down, have a seat at the microphones here. And as we talked about, the submissions can be 10 minutes in length.
I'll try to keep it to 9 minutes and 59 seconds. All right, well, good evening. Your Worship and Council, thank you for listening to our submission. My name is Peter DeConti, and I'm here representing my sisters, Sandra McBurney and Aline Meneghetti. We are the co-owners of the properties at 4531 Boundary Road and 4480 Thompson Road. Land our parents purchased in the mid-50s after immigrating from Italy. For 4 decades, my father meticulously managed this 1-acre property as a farm for cows and chickens, maintaining the majority of it as clear pasture. It was only after his health declined in 1996 and his passing in 1998 that invasive Himalayan blackberries began to creep in from neighboring lots. While I've worked hard to maintain this land while raising a family and caring for my late mother, these invasive weeds, which are not native species, took hold in areas I could not reach while mowing a 10 to 15-foot path that I still maintain today. We were shocked to discover in 2017, through real estate agents and our own mapping research, that our private residential property had been designated as environmentally sensitive area. We were never formally or informally notified of this change. When we questioned staff at a recent open house, we were told they had no way to contact us at the time of the designation, a claim that is both insulting and somewhat infuriating, that the city can successfully send us tax bills every year, which we pay on time, but we're unable to contact us to allow us to know this important information. It appears this designation was applied arbitrarily based on aerial imagery of invasive blackberries, rather than true ecological assessment. While I acknowledge that the city staff finally visited the property recently and reduced the designated area, I believe this only occurred because we took the initiative to challenge the designation and express our dissatisfaction, while other properties in the city probably remain unaware of the situation. Despite this recent reduction, we remain deeply opposed to the principle of this designation and the unfair way it has been applied to a few small pockets of the city, primarily along Beckwith, Thompson, and Boundary Roads. Perhaps it's because these are areas the city is looking to increase density and perhaps capitalize on, while other areas remain exempt. This label has penalized our family by devaluing our land. Potential purchasers are hesitant or demand a lower price because they know they must eventually compensate the city with extra green space or funds in lieu. At a time when we are in a housing crisis and our land is intended for higher density townhomes under the OCP, the city has created a dictatorial barrier to the development of the property that was historically clear pasture. We are not land barons, but a family trying to sell a legacy that has been unfairly encumbered. I strongly request that Council rescind the ESA designation from not only our private residential property, but entirely reconsider the transparency and fairness of this entire process for all residents of Richmond. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We have some questions of staff, I'm sure, but we'll excuse you for the time being. Thank you.
Thank you.
A question to staff on this. As I understand, the ESA area has been reduced. Is that correct? Who can answer this? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, through your worship. Overall, I'm just going to double check the findings here. At least for the area that was brought up in the delegation, that area has been reduced from 0.25 hectares to 0.09 hectares. Overall, the ESA area has increased, but that is largely due to public land that has been designated as ESA, not private land.
All right. Councillor Galanders.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to staff, just a question again about this. And I think you said that when you brought forward the changes to the ESA map this time around, that we didn't add any additional private properties the way that was done back when this happened too. We've heard from many landowners over the last few years that they were so surprised to hear they had this designation, especially with just blackberries.
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Glanders, I think there's been a lot more clarity with respect to invasive species this time around.
Yeah.
No question, aerial photography is only going to catch so much when you're looking at designations, but we did some thorough site visits. We certainly tended to requested site visits as well to update the ESA polygons as much as possible. We've also provided clarification through the guidelines that invasive species can be removed without an ESA DP permit. And that can be part of an exemption. So we're hoping to clarify that aspect of ESA polygons that have invasive species.
Okay, so more to come, and as these come forward one at a time, we might be dealing with them at case-by-case basis.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. So this most recent OCP update did make it easier for people to remove things like blackberry and everything else from their property. Because in the past, you had to get an environmental professional to look at your blackberries, determine that maybe there were some birds living in it, get permission to cut down the blackberries, not only during non-nesting periods or something, replace the habitat for the birds, that because you were taking away the blackberries. So it was a much more onerous process. What would be the process to remove private property from ESA?
Through your worship to Councillor Liu, to begin with, it would require referral for staff to look at the implications, what precedent that would set. We would have to look at in relation to other properties. There's a lot of agricultural properties that are ESA and other designated properties. It's not just residential. So it essentially looks at sort of the environmental layer first rather than what the land use designation is.
Okay, I would like to make that referral.
My question of staff is on the procedure. Let's say, are you Councillor Liu, are you talking about all private property or just the property that's been referred to?
All private property. We've seen other properties where somebody's got some mushy
Okay.
spot in their backyard and they're not allowed to do anything
I got it.
because
I got it.
it's all mucky, but they can't walk there.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, but they're not all like that.
No, but
Now, so from a procedural standpoint, let's say we wanted to look at that question or to a specific property. Could we adopt the two second and third readings as suggested and have that referral that's outstanding that would survive final adoption?
Through your worship, I'll hand that over to Mr. Craig.
Through your worship, yes, in terms of a global referral of that nature, my suggestion would be that council would proceed with granting second and third to the bylaws before them. We can then come back with further information regarding the implications and the process should council wish to remove ESA designations from private property. I would say that it is a requirement of the Local Government Act that a city does look at these types of environmental areas and designate accordingly.
All right.
but Delta doesn't have ESAs, right? On private properties.
Now, listen, we're not arguing the merits of what you just brought up. I'm going to go to Councillor Heed online, and then we'll go to Councillor McNulty.
Yes, Certainly, Councillor Liu brings up a very important issue here, and it's something that we have been speaking about over the series of meetings we've had to discuss what we want to do on the OCP. So I guess my disappointment is she's bringing this up so late in the game. But again, I'm going to be supportive of the referral to staff. But I wish we would have had this earlier because we've got to get this OCP done and in. And I guess my only comment with respect to that is if we can do it, fine, and we'll see what we happen. We're doing it for another area or other areas in Richmond, and I know staff is working on that before the official OCP goes through. So that is fine. I guess my question to staff is, if in fact, for example, the delegates that have come forward and they've laid out the advent of the situation they're in right now with respect to the ESA that's affecting their land, the value of their land, and the fact that this is a family plot that they are wanting to deal with, is there any thing we can do to assist them, or does it have to be an official OCP change in order for us to remove the ESA off their property without them going through all of what Councillor Liu has identified?
Wouldn't we just make it, you can have a general referral as Councillor Liu has suggested, but then you can also make a specific referral on that specific property, which would presumably expedite the question for that particular property. Wouldn't that do it?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay, so that's what we can do if council is of a mind. Make a general referral if that's what council wants, but make a specific referral on that property.
And that's what I would support, Mayor.
All right. Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I'm glad Councillor brought it up. She's one step ahead of me. On this particular property, I had involvement with the family on the time of removing the ESA description because it's all blackberries. And for a couple of questions, I will be supporting removal of ESAs, especially with blackberries. We should have an immediate removal of all ESAs where it's blackberry. If it's evasive, they can move it. Why are we piddling around it? It doesn't matter where it is. Blackberries are something we can already do, so let's do it. My question was, staff said it went from 2.5 to 0.09. Why did it go to anything? I thought in this particular property, we clarified that about 5 months ago.
Okay, to staff.
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor McNulty, for the area that we're talking about on Thompson Road, it was reduced because there's two mature tree canopy areas that are not invasive species. So those are the areas that remained as ESA according to our environmental consultants.
Okay, so staff actually visited the property.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, I think we need to get it off. It's putting hardships on, and the fact that we've got it. And I think where we have ESAs that are legitimate, we keep them. And where they're not, we remove them and remove these hardships from people on it. So I'll definitely support it, but I'd like to have that done within a specific timeline and very quickly because especially the blackberry issue, we have it. I guess probably if we had our blackberry person, we would have got it all removed by now, but I think we can still deal with it accordingly. So I will be supporting, and I'll second any motion that's going to be put on the floor for that. Thank you.
Councillor Day.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to bog this one down by saying we got to remove ESA from all residential properties in Richmond. That's just going to slow the whole process down. So I wouldn't support that motion. I would support one specifically for this property. And I'm just looking at it online, and it's surrounded by other properties of a similar size. Do any of the other properties have ESA designation?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, there's several properties in that area that have ESA polygons. There actually has been development in this area as well for townhouses that did deal with an ESA. In that case, the compensation was off-site. And we would look at each development application and ESA polygon on its own to determine what's the best course of action for the ESA. Development would not be, would be permitted. It would just be a matter of understanding better the ESA value.
Okay, so out of the 1 acre, it's 0.09 hectares that's affected on this, what, $3 million property, is that right?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, on this particular property, it was at 0.25 hectares. It's been reduced to 0.09, largely taking out all the invasive species that are on the site.
So if all the blackberries are removed at the right time of year and all, would that then take it out of the ESA zoning?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, so right now the proposal is to take out those areas that are covered by blackberry and just leave the mature tree canopies.
Okay, so if that happened, would we need the ESA zoning designation?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, if the bylaws are adopted and it's just those 2 tree canopy areas on this particular property, if there's a development application that comes in, we would have an environmental professional that would assess those trees and understand if there's habitat value there, how it connects with other ESAs in the surrounding area, and what's the best course of action for any development proposal.
So it would just be like any other development where if there's a mature tree or a significant tree, there has to be allowances for that tree. That would be no different on this property than any other property in Richmond.
Through your worship to Councillor Day, it's a good point that the tree bylaw would also kick into effect through any development application.
Right, okay. Well, I think we should definitely refer this to staff, but just this particular property, and then as people, other owners come, go through the process, if they want to come to us, we'll deal with them one-on-one. Making a blanket change and getting rid of all ESA, I don't think is wise, because there are a lot of very important environmentally sensitive areas in the city where everything from bird habitats to other types of animals, and so it's illogical to just try to stroke it with a pen. So let's focus on the ones that do require a second look.
Councillor Liu.
Thanks. So I'd like to make the referral to,
Well,
can I
no,
make a
just a minute. As I understand the process, we'll go through second and third reading. We've got more.
we'll do it after we,
We've got more
this, okay.
delegates.
Thanks.
But then we'll go through second and third reading on both of them, and then we'll deal with any referral.
Thank you. So just for clarification, though, as part of the ESA, if you've allowed some trees to overgrow, suddenly they're part of your ESA. And they're also covered under the tree bylaw. So now they're being looked at in basically 2 departments if you have trees on your property. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Liu, what I would say is the ESA would cover more than just trees. It would include any other low-lying vegetation that might not be caught under the tree bylaw.
Okay, so your plants under your tree. Okay, thank you.
All right. Now, are there any other parties who wish to discuss this official community plan with council? Anyone else? All right, so not seeing anybody else, we'll talk about council consideration on second and third for bylaw 10. Okay. Well, why don't you, let's get a motion on the floor and then you can ask your question. That is the OCP we're dealing with, right? All right, so may I have a motion on second and third for bylaw 10-724? Moved and seconded. All right, you've got some questions, Councillor McNulty. This is
Yeah.
relating generally to the OCP.
The OCP, if I may. In terms of the arterial road areas, many of the arterial roads still have single-family homes. And I know it's designated in the OCP for townhouses. Can the remaining single-family homes that are on arterial road, which really an arterial road, Richmond, is basically every road, subdivide into 2? Because the OCP does not say that it can. It's void of subdivision into taking a 60-foot lot and dividing it in 2. So I guess my question is, where is that, and can we grandfather people to do that?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, the OCP does support subdivision of lots. There are 2 ways in which that occurs through the OCP. One was the consolidation of what used to be referred to as the city's lot size policies. So there is a comprehensive map which does show areas within the city which may continue to be rezoned and subdivided in accordance with general lot size patterns within an area. There is also, with respect to arterial roads specifically, a map in the OCP that deals with existing lanes and future lanes, and there are policies that allow rezoning and subdivision that supports the continued implementation of the city's lane network.
So if I want to subdivide my home on Williams Road, I've got to put a lane in the back.
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, no, not necessarily. It depends on the individual circumstances.
Okay, well, I think that needs clarity. I think that what's there is vague. The other questions I have is why are we limiting our heights in Richmond? Why are we not going up to 18 stories or 19, 20 stories where we can? I see everywhere we are, it's 4, 5, 6. And my question is, and I'm not talking necessarily about the flight path, but that's the question I have. Why are we not recommending higher areas where there is an opportunity to go higher without impacting on neighborhoods?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, there are many areas in the city where heights are permitted beyond 3 to 4 stories. In terms of the arterial road locations, the OCP sets a baseline height. There are provisions through policies that would allow council to consider additional heights specific to applications and the type of housing or uses that may be included in those applications. In terms of blanket approval for additional height and density, what I would say is that that would lead to land speculation, inflate land values, and ultimately constrain council's ability to achieve the type of housing that has been expressed, and that is where the policy incentive approach applies.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Day, you've got a question or a comment?
A question, yeah, on page 50 of the big handout we just got. I'm just curious about, and 49 and 50. On arterial roads currently, we have many, many townhouse complexes that are being built. And generally, today, they are 3 stories in the front along the arterial road and 2 stories in the back where it backs onto a single-family neighborhood. I'm looking at page 50 and the drawing on page 49, and it looks like you can go up to 4 stories in tier 1 and 3 stories on tier 2. So how does that affect someone who just happens to back on to a lot that is on an arterial road and they're living in their single family home?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, for those properties, it still would have to go through a rezoning process. So it would still go through the review, staff review, and would be taken to council for consideration. So part of the review would obviously be looking at adjacent impacts to if it's a single family property or a SHMU lot, and looking at sun angles, privacy, that type of thing. And obviously our development permit guidelines will also play a role as far as looking at balconies and those type of privacy related issues. At that point, a general design would be brought forward as part of a rezoning application, and council can make that consideration at the time. This, as Mr. Craig had mentioned, is a guide as far as height is concerned. 3 stories is the maximum height for mixed tenure, and up to 4 stories for rental. But design would be dealt with through the development permit process.
So if I'm living in a single family home in a little subdivision and my lot happens to back onto an arterial road lot, they could build a 4-story apartment building right across the fence from where I am.
Through your worship, Councillor Day, what I can add to that, that's somewhat correct, although it's somewhat, it requires council approval. There's also form-based design guidelines within the OCP that would establish setback minimums, and also ensure that the building essentially isn't a straight wall at the setback mark, that there would be basically a form-based approach to ensure that, that massing isn't dominant over a single-family property.
So is that what you consider on page 49, when you've got the drawings, of the pink buildings that are 3 and 4 and 6 stories high, that by setting them back, I think it's 6 meters on one, and the other one was, I think it was up to 9 meters. Are you saying that if you want to go that tall, you would have to set it back further from the property line?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, that is correct.
Okay, so not unlike, I'm going to go with Williams and number 4 Road, where we have, I think, 5-story apartments, but they hug Williams Road. And so there's quite a distance between, enough room for all the cars to park and everything behind. And so it doesn't directly affect the neighbors on the other side of the fence. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, that is correct, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Craig, do you want to add to that?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to remind council as well that we did receive a referral back in December when this was granted first reading, that staff would look at additional height or those height parameters as part of our referral.
So would every development come to council with, they're always going to try for the maximum, right? Maximum height, maximum density, but then we could choose to amend it as needed? Like maybe use the early approval or early look or smell test, as I call it, through that new system that we have. We could potentially look at it and go, ooh, maybe set it back a little bit further.
Through your worship to Councillor Day, the early council review process only applies where an OCP amendment is proposed. Having said that, what is contemplated here is that you would still consider each application through site-specific rezoning applications, and through the consideration of those rezoning applications, it would be council's prerogative to consider things such as those being referenced by yourself.
Okay, I get it. Thank you so much.
Okay, with that, we're going to call the question on bylaw 10724. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Hobbs, it's carried with Councillor Hobbs opposed. And then on second and third on 10725. Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Sorry. Any opposed? You're opposed to that one. Okay, so that's carried with Councillor Hobbs opposed. Then there was the matter of the referrals. First of all, let's deal with the specific. My understanding is the suggestion was that the specific properties that were referred to on Boundary and I think Thompson, sorry? What? No. Just a minute. Let's deal with that specific property. Okay. So the referral would be to look at the ESA on that specific property, which goes from Thompson to Boundary, and report back. Moved and seconded. Discussion, further discussion, Councillor? No. Okay, all those in, Councillor Wolf.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'd like to make an amendment in that we add to that wording that was spoken to activate the land acquisition department to potentially purchase the property and make it public.
No. That's a separate item entirely, if that's what you're looking for. So I'm going to, Councillor McNulty.
Okay, can I make I'll make another motion after this one rather than an amendment.
All right. So to look at that specific property and the ESA, all those in favor? Just a minute. Yes, Councillor Day.
Thank you so much, Mayor Brody. I'm looking at the listing and it's like 4531 Boundary. Where is the address on Thompson Road?
4480.
4480. Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor of the referral? Anyone opposed? That's carried with Councillor Wolf opposed. Councillor McNulty.
I would like to move the same motion that all properties along Boundary Road adjacent to these, without interfering with them, be also removed from the ESA where there are prolific growths of blackberries.
Well, just a minute. We have to have some definition of what you're talking about. I mean, can you give us a block? Can you give us
Well, I guess from
addresses?
4531 Boundary Road North and South from these properties. I think we should treat all people in that area in the same way, although I do support these folks 100% and have for many times.
Okay, all right. So what block are you talking about?
I'm talking about more than one block along Boundary Road.
From where to where?
4531 North
I'm
and 4531 South.
I'm suggesting, find out exactly the block
Do it
you're,
tomorrow, plan.
just a minute. Do it at planning and get the specifics of what you're talking about. Now, Councillor Liu, you wanted to make a general referral on all private property
Yes.
about the potential removal of the ESA designations on all properties,
Correct.
on all private properties.
Correct.
So that's moved. So that's moved and seconded.
And I
Go ahead.
would like to speak on it. I understand why we brought in the ESA process. I think it was an ability for the city to look at land and to consider, is it necessary to create some habitat restoration? Are there animals living here? Is there something going on? Or are there special plants? I think that's all very good and well. We know that there's plants and animals growing in Richmond, across Richmond. Some of them are invasive species. Many of them are non-native. I think if what we're actually looking for is to build habitats for animals in areas that are appropriate, then everybody should maybe pay a little bit into it instead of a few properties who have allowed themselves to be overgrown. They shouldn't be overly onerous. The same thing with our tree bylaw. If you end up buying a property that some guy ended up getting it totally overgrown, like we had a property on Williams and Gilbert a number of years ago, they had 20 trees on that property. Or no, it was 40 trees. If they were going to redevelop it, they were a 2-to-1 replacement. They were going to have to plant 80 trees on that property. You couldn't even plant 80 trees on that property if you didn't build anything on it. So, the rules are overly onerous. The goal is to plant some trees in Richmond. The goal is to increase animal habitat in Richmond and not to be overly onerous on one guy. And it's also not a make-work project for environmental QEPs. I think that what we're doing is not helpful. It's not making it easy for people to develop. It spends a ton of time and it's not actually getting what we want. If we want a little bit, it's just like a regular ACC, amenity contribution that everyone would pay into, just like public art, habitat creation in Richmond. That's what we should be looking at. So I think this whole ESA, we can get rid of it and we can move on and we can create habitats in other places and have a different mechanism for who pays for it and how it gets delivered.
Before I go to other speakers, I want to ask a question of staff. Mr. Craig, I think it was you who talked about, or one of you anyway, talked about the fact that it's expected that we take a look at ESAs in the city. So is it possible then to, in your opinion, just off the top, to take this away from all the residential areas in the city?
To your worship, there is a requirement in the Local Government Act that a municipality must designate or at least identify environmentally sensitive areas. So that would be difficult to sort of take out private property rather than public property, but I think this could be part of the review of this referral, and we'd report back.
Just a minute. So based on what you've already heard, like on this specific property, you can give us that kind of guidance?
To your worship, two issues here. With respect to the property on Thompson and Boundary, we can certainly take that referral and dig a little deeper as far as the ESA attributes on the property. But as far as the referral with looking at removing private property from ESAs, we would have to look at the legislation and the language
All
of
right,
that.
so, okay, with the referral that's on the floor, you can take a look at it. Okay, we'll go to Councillor Wolf.
Thanks. I believe this is most, I don't know what word to use, just simply say dangerous referral that I've had during my time on council to erode the reason why people live in Richmond. A lot of it is the livability, the reason we live long lives. We have beautiful scenery, the reason for tourism to attract people to come to this region. It's not just so things are in a nice manicured park because that's all we have space for. It's because it doesn't get blocked at a road. Things continue. There's this hub and spoke model where you allow for things to connect. The birds might not be there when the environmental assessment happens on that one day for that couple minutes that you're there looking. And why would wildlife want to be seen by people who hate them, who don't value the trees that they need, the ability to find food in areas that they've been long before users of this space than any human who's in the room now or lived in Richmond. So to come to a point where we're looking at the future of the city and the OCP to then stab a major component of it with the word still ringing in my ear from earlier, vindictive mentality to really promote the war on nature we're seeing in other parts of the world. That's not what we're about here. That's not why people have gifted their properties to the city, because they're so biologically diverse. And the fact that we have most of our ESA map that's before us on page 227 or other places, majority of this is private land and farmland. Like to just do this blanket thing is just beside me, but not with who it came from. So I guess we're okay to just carry on with letting staff look at this, and hopefully we get some sense knocked into us. Thanks.
Before I go to Councillor Galanders, the personal shot wasn't called for, Councillor. Councillor Galanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, whenever a few of us speak about defending trees, we often get personal shots at us in comments following. So, you know, we have different views on these things. Some of us come from different approaches. So, yeah, I don't understand exactly what the wording of the referral is as far as what's going to come back, a plan to remove it from all residential properties, or a possible plan to go forward on how we would look at removing some of them.
Not a plan, it's just looking at the question in general.
Yeah, so, okay, if that's what it is, you know, I think that there are circumstances where we should be looking at removing the ESAs from residential property. I've got a question of staff. This is just an example. So we updated our OCP to redevelop the area around Leslie Road, and there was a stand of mature conifers there, a huge area of very wild, pristine trees that with hawk's nest and everything else. And we're clearing all of that for a multi-use pathway so that we can move the road over and allow industrial development there. Did we have ESA on that big stand of trees and have to go through a process of removing it to do the development we want to do in the city center?
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, for that property, there is no ESA that's been assigned for that area. So largely it would be the tree bylaw that would come into play, and obviously the landscape plan is part of the redevelopment process.
Right. And so it's things like that that make the ESA on some residential property not make sense to me, because it, you know, that's probably a lot more ecologically diverse area that we're going to be clearing than the blackberries and a little bit on this 0.9 of an acre property, for example. So why did they get it slapped on them with their blackberries and a couple trees, but it's not on this other huge area? It doesn't really make sense to me. So I'm not opposed to looking at things like that. That's why I'm supportive of the the referral to look at this boundary in Thompson. But when we talk about the bigger picture, like Councillor Wolf said, I mean, we are on the Pacific Flyway. We're an estuary. The diversity that we have here is probably the most in the region. And when we look at the backlands, for example, these are all properties that the value of the property is already quite low, $250,000 an acre, because they're not accessible by road. They are not allowed to be developed on as far as housing because there's no way for fire or any other emergency services to get to those properties. If somebody purchases these properties and they are in the ESA, and yes, they may have invasive species. They may not have blackberry. They may have the birch trees that are not native to here, but regardless, it's still a forest, and it's probably full of hawk's nests and eagle's nests and everything else. So they purchase these properties that they cannot develop.
Councillor,
ESA.
we're on the merits of referral, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Should we refer this question? That's it.
I find it to be a dangerous blanket referral that could erode what is really special about our city. The ESA is on those lands because in order to clear them to do farming, you need to do a serious assessment on what wildlife is going to be impacted and make appropriate accommodations for that. So I don't want to be removing the ESA on all of those properties. That's the majority of what our ESA is. Those are not development properties. In the city center, I can see it because we're going to make townhouses there. Why is this one little patch ESA? It doesn't make any sense. So I'm not comfortable with the referral. I think that we should look at them in the city center and case by case, maybe look at the policy overall, but I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with the referral.
All right, Councillor Day, on the merits of referral, not on the general merits of the whole question.
Got it. I just need to understand, staff earlier mentioned that there's legislation that needs to be looked at. Could you explain what that means, please?
That will be in the referral.
I'd like to ask staff the question to just expand a little bit on that comment, please.
Through your worship to Councillor Day, what I can say is the Local Government Act must include statements and map designations for areas and policies for areas that would be considered environmentally sensitive. Council does have discretion with respect to development permit guidelines, however, and we would expand on that if there is a referral.
Yeah, you know, staff are busy trying to approve every townhouse and apartment complex in Richmond, and this is just a make-work project. I think having blanket decision, there will be no ESA designation on any private property is just, I'm going to try to be polite, it's just illogical. So rather than waste staff's valuable time on something that unless you were a developer, I don't know why you'd want it. I mean, many people have.
On the merits of referral.
And the merits of referral, I do not think that this merits referral because it's just a waste of time.
All right.
Thank you.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair, speaking of the merits of referral, can you just clarify to me exactly what the wording is?
The suggestion is for staff to review the potential removal of all of the ESA from all private property.
All right. I mean, I do agree with some of the comments. I don't think a blanket approach is the way to go, but I'll make an allowance, I suppose, for the review. But I can state pretty categorically that I don't anticipate me ever supporting a blanket kind of approach to things. So if it's to have a look at private property, then in terms of where ESAs are applicable and where they're not, I can support that in a very specific way. And it's not a question, I would just hope that there's an opportunity for the public to weigh into this process when we have this review.
There always is.
Yes, and an opportunity for the public actually to ask for exceptions or specific properties to be considered without having to come to a public hearing as the delegates did tonight. So I'll support the referral because it's talking about potential and it's asking for a review, but it's not a blanket and we're not doing it automatically, and I don't want to give anybody the idea that we're presupposing the outcome of that.
Councillor Heed.
Thank you, Mayor. And on the referral, and I think it's important to remember this is just a referral. It is not an absolute, and I think we've got to pay attention to that, as Councillor Hobbs alluded to. And look, Mr. DeConti and Ms. McBurney, you can understand, and we dealt with their particular property. We know that hopefully our chair of the planning committee is going to look at a broadened area around the McBurney property there to see if that can apply to. It's a case-by-case basis, and I think that is good right now as an interim measure. I certainly, like other councillors, don't want to see a blanket policy. I think that is going to be very negative, and I can certainly empathize with some of the councillors on the passion that they have for environment, and I think we may have to look at various things on a case-by-case basis or an area-by-area basis. So I'll support the referral, but as Councillor Hobbs has alluded to, I certainly am not going to be in favor, and I'm going to presuppose, for any blanket policy forthwith, at least for private property.
Okay, Councillor McNulty, last word.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to support the referral, but as I was alluding to with some of the other properties that have put hardship on people wanting to do anything, including putting a garden in because of removal of things like blackberry and what have you, I don't think it hurts to look at it and have the information back. And we would probably be dealing with anything on a case-by-case basis. But to put your head in the sand and not even look at it, I think we have, because we have too many things, and especially in the areas of Hamilton and Bridgeport. And I'm glad somebody brought up Leslie Road because I've got a referral on that one for what we can do there, because there's already housing in there. So I think once we get the information back, then we can make further decisions. But we don't have the information. We don't even have the Government Act to know what the interpretation is, et cetera. So I think to have it go forward, that's our process, and we'll get that information. Thank you.
Okay, so on the suggestion of removal of private property on the referral, all those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried with Councillors Wolf, Day, and Galanders opposed. I think that does it, unless anyone's got, so we're now